Hello dear viewers, I hope that you like this recap and you will put the varnish and subscribe to the channel. I try to make videos as often as I can, and in this difficult opinion I really need your support. So if it's not too much trouble, put a like. Thank you. That's it. I won't make it anymore. Enjoy watching. In his deep childhood, the hero lost all his family members. He was left alone with his sister, and it was at that moment that he vowed to become an adventurer. Skills are God-given abilities that most often manifest at the age of 12. At this time, adventurers who have received their abilities are called upon to rise in rank and protect civilians from monsters. All adventurers are heroes who gain fame and honor, and one such person dreamed of becoming the protagonist. One day he prayed and asked God to give him strength, to give him the power to protect the people of this world. But unfortunately, as it often happens, the main character was waiting for good news first. He went with a very good mood to the rector of the temple, because after this prayer he received his navy. But as I said, the priest told the boy the hard truth, namely that with such a useless skill, the boy will never be able to become an adventurer in his life. A few years later, in one of the dungeons, an evil man approached the hero, whose name was Crom. Crom didn't cross Ash and just kept walking. The adventurer openly insulted Crom because he was really useless. This was due to the fact that Crom had the resurrection skill, which allowed him to return from the other world once in a lifetime. But this skill was not a combat skill like the others, but a one-time use, which was of no use in combat. Although Crom's dream of becoming an adventurer had been crushed, he decided to help adventurers and at least be useful. It seemed that Crom was even proud of the fact that he could bring some help to this cruel world. At that time, the team members discussed the fact that Crom had been abandoned by his own sister because she had acquired a powerful ability. Crom, however, just laughed awkwardly at such remarks. A moment later, one of the adventurers reflexively turned around to see a monster behind his back, ready to attack. Ash did not wait and immediately used his flame armor skill, while the other team member also used his super strength skill. Thanks to their skills, they were able to destroy the goblin that was about to attack them in an instant. They even joked that these monsters were like real bugs for their level. Ash ordered Crom not to stand still and to start collecting the prey, and the hero immediately got to work. After Crom reminded the captain of the team that they could get lost if they strayed from the route, he not only failed to listen, but ordered the weakling to shut up. After a while, the main character's eyes filled with fear and he looked up, where in the darkness only a huge number of monster eyes could be seen. The other members of the team were afraid, but the opponents were only demons, so they decided to fight. The commander hit the monster with all his might, but he began to realize that there were too many enemies, and most likely they would all die here. But the commander came up with a cunning plan that brought a smile to his face. While Crom fought the endless hordes of monsters with all his might, but he couldn't even scratch those things. Crom's level was too low to fight such monsters, but suddenly he felt a jolt and looked back. It was the captain of their team, pushing Crom off the cliff. Crom asked Ash to help him get out of the trap, and the captain said it was time for Crom to use his skill. The team then ran off, leaving the protagonist to be torn apart by the monsters. As the cannibals devoured Crom's body, he realized that even if he resurrected, he would still die a second time, and even for good. The guy felt terrible pain from the fact that his flesh was being eaten by the monsters, and after a while, his body was eaten and his resurrection skill was activated. Crom began to open his eyes, but he saw a bone hand in front of him. Looking at the reflection of the sword, he realized that he had turned into a skeleton after the resurrection. He began to examine his body, not believing what was happening. He realized that he now had to check the console. There he learned that his race had changed to Lick and that he had no skills. Crom's level was also gone, and the system described the Lick as a weak walking corpse. Crom was very angry at this outcome, remembering the words that Nove was useless, but very rare, so that his details no one knows. Crom began to wonder what will happen to him next, but decided to make a great bolt. After all, in his opinion, such a body was equal to the dead. He realized that he was dead now, because all he had left were his bones. He was sad because, despite his difficult life, he had dreamed and done his best to help his country. He had always risked that some bastard would abandon him and run away. And Crom remembered his sister's words that he should not be an adventurer, and finally thought that she might have been right. Crom suddenly jumped up. He decided to turn off all his negative thoughts. He remembered that monsters have the ability to evolve, and the higher their level, the stronger they become and the more their appearance changes. Now Crom began to dream of increasing his level, regaining his human form, and becoming the strongest S-class adventurer. Although there was one big problem, namely that Licks were weak monsters, he wasn't sure if he would be able to level up. The only thing that reassured him was that he had a mind, which gave him a huge advantage over other monsters. Thanks to his appearance, Crom was able to avoid monsters because they thought he was a corpse. The hero knew the terrain very well. He had to collect all the information about the monsters. One day, he came across a goblin that had only 9 XP and was actually a ranked monster. The monster heard a noise and turned around to look at the source of the sound. But at the same moment the hero started to move and the most accurate blow from the back hit his first enemy. Thanks to his ingenuity, Crom killed the goblin and gained 3 experience points, which allowed him to reach level 3. Crom was proud of himself for being able to defeat a monster 1 level higher than him, all thanks to the fact that he was now not just a monster, and a monster with a head on his shoulders. Now Crom had his first mini-goal, which was to reach level 5 to go through the first evolution. He would be the strongest this time. After a while, Crom came across a huge monster, a goblin slime, which was also an E rank. Crom didn't waste any time and attacked his enemy, slicing and dicing him with a single blow. Unfortunately, he only gained 1 experience point this time. Crom was frustrated that he got so little experience from this monster. He realized that his strategy of pretending to be a corpse would soon not be as effective. He realized that with this amount of experience he would not be able to pump for 10 years. Crom decided to think about his problem and how to solve it. He was happy that this body did not need food or sleep. But the guy decided to go a little further from nature and sleep, because if he did not even do that he would completely lose his humanity. In fact, there is not even food in this horrible place. And because he was in the dungeon all the time, he lost track of time. Crom seemed very worried about the time he was spending in this place. He had no idea how much time had passed. He wondered if his favorite sister was worried, though he remembered that even when he hadn't been home for a few days, she didn't care. Crom decided that his sister did not care about his disappearance. The guy came to his senses in time and started to push such thoughts away, because at this rate he would fall into a complete depression. The hero desperately wanted to leave this place, but until he gets stronger, it's just a dream. After a while, Crom came across a rather strong monster, a red-eyed monster that was already D rank. As always, Crom used his tactic of pretending to be a corpse, but there was a very exciting moment when the monster looked at the hero with its gaze. Luckily it still passed by considering Crom to be a corpse. The hero realized that although it was dangerous, if he managed to defeat this monster, he would gain several levels at once. The only thing that stopped Crom now was that the difference between them was for levels. He was only 3 while the wolf was 7. Crom was determined to win. He was not a mindless skeleton. Crom decided to study all of his opponent's habits, as it would definitely come in handy in battle. After following the monster, Crom managed to find its territory so he could make his plan. After a while, the monster wolf just wandered around the dungeon, while the hero performed his favorite tactic of pretending to be a corpse. The monster fell for it again and wanted to pass by. But suddenly the protagonist jumped up from his seat and immediately put a blade to the corpse of his enemy. The guy managed to strike a clear blow that damaged the monster, but it did not die immediately and began to scream with all its might. Crom seemed to be calm, and the continuation of his plan was to throw the wolf into the ravine, and after it crashed to the ground, Crom struck another crushing blow directly into the wolf's belly. Thanks to the fact that his body was made entirely of bones, he gained lightness and agility, which was very helpful in fights. Crom thought he had already won and delivered the final blow, but the enemy surprisingly did not die. In fact, he bit the blade, thus stopping Crom's onslaught. The enemy immediately lunged at the man's hand, trying to bite it off, and he succeeded, causing Crom to lose one of his hands. It seemed that the guy was getting nervous, as the situation was worse than ever, but the skeleton picked himself up and struck a powerful blow with his broken arm, sharp enough to pierce the wolf's skin. After the blow, the enemy screamed in pain and finally died, leaving Crom to stand over the body of the dead enemy, exhausted but victorious. Thanks to the victory over the monster, Crom managed to reach level 5. He was incredibly happy that he had managed to level up so much in such a short amount of time. In some miraculous way, Crom instinctively understood what he needed to evolve, and after a short time, his body began to change, and it was the same evolution that brought him closer to human form. When the evolution was complete, Crom looked at his reflection and from a pile of bones he had skin. Now he was a ghoul. Now he had incredibly fast regeneration. Thanks to the exfoliation, Crom's arm was healed. He got good stats, and most importantly, he got a regeneration skill. The joyful moment was tempered by the fact that although he was happy, he did not want to become a monster. Now, he had a new goal, to reach level 20 in order to advance to the next stage of evolution. He continued to work towards his goal of becoming human and becoming the strongest adventurer in the world. After a while, Crom came across his next opponent, a large mouse, and immediately started a fight, attacking it with his sword, which it was able to block. Crom had a hard time attacking with his sword because of the mouse's claws. The hero received a retaliatory blow from the monster right in the chest, from which it flew away for a decent distance, but Crom did not grow, threw his sword directly at the monster, and as soon as he deflected the sudden attack, the hero was behind his back, attacking the enemy with his sharp claws. Now Crom realized that from now on he would have to kill monsters with his bare hands. Thanks to his victory over the monster, he had increased his level to 6, but he still had a long way to go before he could evolve. Crom didn't hesitate and decided to test his ability to regenerate, so his wound began to heal before his eyes. Crom realized that being a ghoul was much better than being a lick, but unfortunately he was hungry now. He cut off a limb from the defeated enemy, and after gathering his thoughts, he began to gnaw on it, trying to swallow it. Crom was worried that he would now have to eat the flesh of a filthy monster, but he realized that hunger was one of the indicators that he was becoming human. By calming himself with the thought that he was becoming human, he was able to eat the flesh of a filthy rat without remorse. A few days had passed since then, and this time Crom had chosen a truly formidable opponent, a D-rank orc. He quickly overpowered his opponent and was able to raise his level from 13 to 14. This success made Crom very excited, as the orc was already an order of magnitude stronger than him in human form. He was pleased with his ability to regenerate, because now he did not need to plan battle tactics, and thanks to his race, he did not feel fatigue. Crom had only 6 levels to go before the next evolution, and he was very happy that he was now 1 level higher than when he was alive. Lying under the wall, he hoped that the next evolution would make him more human. Suddenly Crom remembered his favorite sister. He was very curious about her because they used to be very close, but in recent years they lost all contact with each other. Because of his lousy skills, he couldn't earn a living and support his family, but his sister was able to awaken her magical skills and became a strong adventurer. In the past, the guy was happy for the girl who had become C-class, but she looked at her brother as an idiot, because he was really happy for his sister who had the opportunity to become stronger. While her sister said that Crom looked very pitiful, she also added cruel words that such a useless person should live an ordinary life. As soon as the sister became adventurous, she began to look down on her loser brother. He began to wonder if his sister was worried about him, but he also realized that he couldn't go back like that, because he would be killed immediately, and the problem was that he couldn't even speak properly now. He tried very hard to learn to speak, but his attempts were unsuccessful. After a while in the cave, the sounds of a monster came. Crom immediately alerted and prepared for battle, wondering what kind of monster appeared in this place. Looking a little further, he saw a group of humans, which caused Crom to immediately hide. It turned out that they were not just random people. Among them was the guy's sister, Kami. The guy couldn't understand why his sister had come to this dungeon. Crom realized that he had to leave now, because if he was seen, he was finished. Just then, his sister complained to one of the group members that they had run out of potions. The other girl said that the good news was that they had extra potions. The sister said that it was a basic necessity, because if someone was bitten by a monster, they might die without a potion. The girl said that it wasn't really that critical because it was impossible to turn into a monster from a bite. The sister complained that you can't trust someone who doesn't even prepare properly for a trip. The guy the girl was referring to started apologizing, saying that she should be grateful to him for responding to her sudden request. The girl reminded the asshole that he had agreed to the hike and that people's lives were at stake and he was making scandals. The guy was very angry after these words. At that time, Crom saw this picture and realized that his sister was really strict with everyone. He even thought that she could be a little softer with people. Suddenly, the hero's claw hit the wall, making a sound. The sound was immediately heard by the people, and they immediately prepared for battle. The hero's sister started to use the ice arrow spell, and Crom was very worried because now his life was at stake again. Arrows began to fly towards him, and they managed to wound his arm, which caused pain, but he decided to hold back a scream, because then he would definitely be exposed. The humans still managed to find Crom, and their faces showed the condemnation they felt for seeing only a weak ghoul in front of them. Crom found himself in a complete mess, not knowing what to do to get out of this situation alive. Crom was in a terrible situation, and the worst part was that the person who discovered him was his own sister. Lena, from her sister's team, told her allies about the ghoul's ability to regenerate quickly. Derek said it wouldn't be a problem if they teamed up to attack him. At that point, his sister told him that relying on his brute strength alone was foolish, and that he needed to be smart. Crom was confused. He couldn't even imagine what to do. He couldn't even handle one person, and there were 3 of them. Crom was also very surprised by his sister's level. She was already level 18, which amazed the hero. Now the guy's plan was to distract the people and run away, while one of the people did not just stand there and started to use his skill that would burn the monster. He attacked Crom with all his might, but he miraculously managed to dodge such a fierce attack. Her sister's ally also did not stand still and attacked the protagonist as well. She used the skill of levitation and was right behind the monster. Now Crom was surrounded and the possibility of escape was dwindling. The girl attacked the monster with her sword, but he managed to stop the attack with his hand. The hero realized that if the guy attacked him with fire, he was finished. He could not be distracted, because as soon as he relaxed, he was dead. Crom felt the huge difference in their levels, but he could not run away. He had to fight. He didn't want to fight, but now he had no choice. At that time, the guy tried to launch his fire attack again, but to his great surprise, the hero used the stone to interrupt the attack. The guy was offended, and with Crom in close proximity, he delivered a powerful blow to the guy's head. It turned out that a Gowl's claws are indeed deadly weapons. Crom wasted no time in running away. Not wanting to fight these people, he realized that it was dangerous to hunt monsters in the dungeon, and they were unlikely to come after him. At that time, the guy was upset that he missed a blow from the monster. He and the girl went to catch up with Crom, and he thought about what to do with his tail. He came up with a simple solution, which was to stop the girl before she could use her skill. She was surprised to see the monster turn around, and he was counting on the regeneration skill to take a direct sword attack. Thanks to his body, Crom was able to knock the sword out of the girl's hands, leaving her weapon stuck in the wall of the cave. Crom grinned from the success of his plan, but heard the voice of his sister, who said the skill hail ice lances, which not on a joke frightened Crom, and a moment later ice lances flew in his direction. The guy avoided critic damage, but his legs were damaged, because of which he fell to the ground, unable to do anything. The girl praised the hero's sister, while the guy complained that he wanted to kill the monster with his own hands. The sister explained that it was the guy's own fault for missing the attack because he acted like an aggressive bastard. She explained that if he had been more restrained, they would have defeated the monster sooner. Crom realized that if he didn't do something now, he would simply die. With that in mind, he began to rise, though the attempt was unsuccessful as his legs were badly bruised, the bones were damaged and the muscles were at an end. The sister had almost blown off the main character's legs with a single blow. Crom tried to heal his legs with his regeneration skill, and although the attempt was successful, he will not last long, and he must run away. By that time, his sister was ready to finish off the monster, and he realized that he still had a chance to get out of this mess alive. The sister started to say the name of the skill, after which a huge ice trident appeared, which seemed to be able to finish Crom instantly. The hero was fully aware of the fact that if he did not think of something now, he would be finished by his own sister, and then he would finally be finished. In front of the guy in the air waved a huge trident, but Crom was not going to give up so easily. He realized that regeneration is not over, and if he attacks in the forehead he is completely finished. He thought about the solution to this Afajethi's difficult problem, and suddenly he had an epiphany. He began to try with all his might to call the name of his sister, which confused her, because for some reason the voice reminded her of her brother. The spell was already started and in a moment it came true, but because of the shock the girl missed and didn't hit the guy's body. At that moment, a guy from her team started complaining about the girl missing from such a close distance. At that point, Crom realized that he was now on the verge of death, and he literally miraculously managed to survive. He was incredibly lucky to be able to say his sister's name, otherwise he would have already gone to another world. At that time, the girl became nervous. She did not understand what was happening, and Crom immediately stood up. The girl also did not become dumb and immediately prepared for the next attack. Crom started to scream, which scared her sister, and she broke the spell. She fell to the ground, causing her some pain, and Crom is no fool. Taking advantage of situations, he ran so that only his heels were visible. The girl realized that the monster was acting too intelligent. It was definitely some kind of anomaly. The boy complained to his sister that she was stupid, and because of her actions, they missed the monster. She remembered about the undead. It was a human corpse that had risen in the dungeon, but she just didn't want to believe that her own brother had turned into it. It was then that Crom crouched down to catch his breath, literally miraculously escaping death. He had been unlucky enough to encounter the high-ranking adventurers, but he was also incredibly fortunate to have his ability to regenerate, as it was only thanks to that and his wits that he had managed to survive. Crom decided to avoid the aventurists at all costs and concentrate on killing monsters. He hadn't really seen his sister go through a dungeon in a long time, because he had taken her with a sober a long time ago, but she had leveled up quickly and then stopped going anywhere with him. Crom looked around, looking for people nearby. He saw people running in the other direction, which was a good thing. Crom decided to go to an area where they wouldn't run into them. He thought for a second, though, because the place he was going to was the deepest part of the dungeon. Normally, humans can't stay in dungeons for very long because their bodies are different from a monster's. It can be said that for humans, staying in a dungeon for too long is akin to dying. The body is incredibly tired from the magical pressure in the air. Entering a dungeon is usually well planned. Otherwise, all members of the expedition can easily die. Crom realized that if they went any further, they would definitely die. But he could not stop the people, because if he tried, he would be killed. Crom decided to do something really stupid, which was to watch the humans from a distance. At that time the guys came across the corpse of an adventurer. The sister came closer to the body to look at it. Other members of the team noticed that it was not just a corpse. It was cleaned and all the money was stolen. The hero's sister ordered her people to move on. The guy was surprised by the girl's desire to continue their journey. The other girl explained that continuing the expedition could be very dangerous. She explained everything very simply, reminding them that it was not their first trip to the dungeon, and they were prepared enough to continue the journey according to the plan. The guy was angry with the girl. He was pissed off that she was acting like a leader. At the same time, Crom, watching from a distance, was sad that they wanted to continue their journey. The deeper they went, the bigger and stronger the monsters became, and the more magic was in the air. Crom was saddened by his sister's stubbornness, because anything could happen in the dungeon. He could not understand why his sister risked her life. At that time, there was an unknown creature whose step caused quite a strong earthquake. It turned out to be a monster ogre with a rank that emitted a huge amount of aura. Crom realized that this was a total mistake, as it was an incredibly powerful monster that could reach level 50. It was then that his favorite sister prepared for battle. Guys, thanks for watching this video to the end. If you liked the manhwa, let me know by liking this video. I would like to make a sequel, so I hope you have a positive reaction. With you was a new Page of Manhwa. See you soon.